I was in the right place at the right time. And I'd hit 20 runs off Chris Wright on a Sunday, I remember, at his house, at the cricket game. And I was in the lift with him in the morning, and he said, "Oh, Roger," I said, "Oh, Chris, sorry to make mockery of your spin bowling yesterday." He said, "Oh, don't worry about that. Why don't you come and see me at lunchtime?" And I went in thinking, and this was a Monday, and it was 75. And he said to me, "What do you think about America?" And I said, "Well, how do you mean? Is it like, you know, is it like moving there, or is it trying it?" Or anyway, I went. They left. Suddenly there was like a leaving party on the Friday. I was on the plane on the Sunday morning, and I arrived and I stayed at the Sunset Marquee, and we went straight to. I think they met me with a big spliff, and we went and had daiquiris, and we went to see Russ Meyer's Super Vixens, and this was sort of LA, you know, during this time. And then the next morning, Terry's secretary arrived in her car to take me to the office. Boom, and I was there. It was new, it was just a few people, and I'm thinking going, whew. And I was living in a bedsit at this time in South Kensington, and I'd split up with a girlfriend recently, and I was a bit bruised, so I was ready for a change. And I was 28, and I happened to know the guy who ran Budget Rent-A-Car, Arnie Graham, lovely guy, and I went in to see him, and he was, "Raj, can we get you a car?" You know, this sort of thing. I mean, he was a very friendly guy, you know. And I said, "Arnie, I think I'm here for a while. How can I find a house?" "Let me give you and he got Violet on the phone, and he called it. "Violet, what are you doing? You've got a friend here coming over. He'll be there in 5 minutes." They took me over, and Violet said, "Let's see." Anyway, they took me up to this house at the lunchtime, and this is on the Monday, and the guy in the mailroom took me up there, and it was way up Wonderland Avenue, up Sunset Plaza Drive at the very top of the Hollywood Hills. And I'm just going, wow, you know, and I'd been in a bedsit and stuff again. And this was part of the experience of arriving in LA in the 70s. And on the steps of this house was a guy who looked a bit like Peter Fonda. And it turns out he was Peter Fonda's stuntman. But these guys had been earning big money in Hollywood and they bought houses, and that's what they did, and that's how, you know, so, you know, anyway. And he showed me around the house, and it sort of had a shag carpet, and you know, like, and it was nice. I mean, it was big doors overlooking the valley, and I was really on the top. And that's where I stayed. I was there for 7 years. The whole LA scene, and as you drove down the Sunset Boulevard, the Strip, it was all billboards about music. I found a guy, one of the tapes, a guy came in to see me, and his name was Nick Gilder, and we had a #1, our first #1 with Nick Gilder, and Mike Chapman. Mike Chapman played a big part of what we were doing at the time. I mean, this is an Australian guy who'd had all these hits with Nicky Chin here in the UK with Mud, and they had Ginny Chap, and he had a office on Sunset Boulevard. So I was sort of, I managed to stay for a while, as it were. And then I met a guy called Bob Brown, who managed a group called Pablo Cruz, who was signed to A&M. And Bob was a good guy, and he managed Huey Lewis. And he was a stockbroker from San Francisco. And Huey, I went to see several times and really got on with him well. I mean, and later on, I mean, who wouldn't? He's such a lovely guy, real Anglophile character, because he used to play with Nick Lowe and stuff. And anyway, against much competition, because of my relationship with Huey, he signed to Chrysalis. Terry only got to see Huey Lewis because we found a restaurant. I mean, it was like a little bit like that. We found I'd kept trying to get him to come to gigs. Would sometimes revolve around the restaurants that were in the area, which I quickly learned to play. Yeah, and I found one here where Huey was playing. Incredible.